I just gotta say, I love to hear as we start recording, I'm just gonna wing it. Like,
Yeah, that's perfect introduction right there.
Podcasting.
Not like,
yeah.
I'm sorry, like at least 50% of my life has been just winging it. Like just.
No, that was not critical.
If it works.
That was not said in a capacity of like, oh my gosh, Amy's just swinging it. Like,
I can't believe you didn't put all this planning in, Amy. Oh my god.
I need you guys to know that I am 90% of the time just swinging it. Like half the time I'm editing and I'm just winging it. Mm-hmm. So
I'm just,
I feel like 10% of the time in winging it because my anxiety won't let me.
Joe plans enough for both of us.
Joe is the harried mom with the toddler leashes, and Amy and I are just going off in two different directions.
I'm just like the ADHD wild child bouncing off the wall.
Yeah.
What I gotta do.
Yeah.
Amy's got the pink unicorn backpack with a leash.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Amber, I feel like you're calm enough. I don't need to leash you, but I maybe sometimes hand Amy's leash to you.
Yes.
Nice, thank you.
You need to hold on there for 2 seconds.
I feel so responsible all of a sudden. That's me. Until Amber gets distracted by something pretty and sparkly too, and then I take Amy with her leash off to go get some flowers, and then you're like, what the fuck?
But at least I know you're just like looking at flowers or something. You're
That's
not
true. I'm never doing anything. I'm never going to
True chaotic. Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, that was some good riffing to open us up.
Yeah, why not? A nice cold, warm up, cold open. No, cold
I don't know
open
that we have like a true.
In.
Yeah, I don't know that we have like a true open for the monthly mixers. We just
ooh, challenge accepted. Somebody's got.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we need an open though? Because it's like it's kind of like our happy hour at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. Yeah, we could talk about whatever the fuck we want, man.
Mm-hmm. Whatever we want. It's a crapshoot. Sometimes it'll be related to what we talked about this month, which is August. Sometimes it will be tangential to what we talked about this month, which is August. And sometimes it will be some batshit thought that passed through our head while we were kind of doing research.
Out of left field.
And like way out of there. And you're like, what the hell is this podcast? I don't know.
Does anybody really? It could be anything. Quite literally.
I mean, we're recording it and we don't know. So
I barely know. Yeah.
Don't know what we're doing, guys. It's fine. We'll figure it out.
My topic is literally just like it's like the thinnest thread, like that connects my August episode to my topic. And I was just like, let's bounce on this until it breaks. Let's see how far we get.
Well, that sounds like the perfect segue. You got to go first because you've talked about your topic like 5 times now.
I am so excited.
Obviously, you're really excited.
I am so excited.
Amber's first.
And guys, I cannot express to you enough how nothing my topic is. Like, it's not, when I say topic, it's very loosely that, because my topic for our August monthly mixer is ghost hunting.
All right. We're planning to take a little ghost hunting trip soon, so we could use some background
It's perfectly timed.
Yes.
Which is segue. At the end of this call, we need to actually look at dates and figure this out because we still haven't done that.
Plan that trip because
I'm just gonna preface this as saying your topic is actually more solid than my topic because mine's I just was like I started and I was like, oh, it connects to this, so yeah, yours is better than mine. So go for it.
I have 2 topics, kind of.
Oh, Joe's gonna be an overachiever yet again.
And they're both going to piss us off. So, it's going to be great.
Joe is our A+ student. We know. I am a solid
I have
plus
problems.
A-. And it's okay.
I would probably be a B if I weren't so damn charming. But people just want to give me the benefit of the doubt. So.
They round
fucking
up for
lucky
you every time.
Until they hate me.
And then they're like, why did I pass that bitch?
She was good for something,
So.
All right.
I do just have to say, like, the thought process behind my topic is literally looking up the Oliver House in Bisbee and how cute and charming it is. And I was like, yes, absolutely need to do a ghost hunt here. Like, just need to do it. And then I saw their page and I saw all the other like ghost hunters that had been there and how they displayed that, then I saw that one of the ghost hunters there was the Ghost
Hunter.
No, not the Ghost Hunters. Those are the good ones.
The Ghost Adventurers. And let me tell you, his fucking episode, I have been dying to like scream about this for just a few minutes. I'm sorry, I'm hit a tangent.
Please.
This fucking asshole. Not only does he show up in like a bedazzled button-down shirt and a cowboy hat and make riffs about looking at like naked lady pictures in the hotels and shit because he's a fucking asshole. But they got bored in the afternoon and they drove to the border, heard gunshots, went to Border Patrol to see if they could do a ride-along, got told no, and went back to where they heard the gunshots and stuck their camera through a hole in the fence to see what was going on. Like, are you fucking serious? Are you fucking serious? What is wrong with you?
People who don't live in Arizona just don't get it. They're like,
don't get it.
It's like the Wild West. No, dude, it's a bunch of guys with fucking guns all over the place. Like,
any of the fucking coyotes out there see you? And by the way, coyotes is another name for people that like help traffic others across the border. But any of them see you, they don't care that you're in a bedazzled shirt and you don't look like Border Patrol. They're gonna fucking shoot you because you're a white dude that could rat on them. And you did try to. You tried to. You went to Border Patrol.
Frankly, I'm sure half the people on Border Patrol might see you and shoot at you anyway.
I know. Like, they might be like,
you're a pasty-ass white boy, but, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. You could be from Mexico and be pasty. So...
and like that, I cannot sum up more distinctly. Like, this is what spawned me into the topic of ghost hunting, and as we're going to see, like, ghost hunting tools is kind of the direction I went.
It's just how stupid these guys were.
But it's just wild to me, because I grew up, like, everything I know about ghost hunting comes from Ghost Hunters, like, the television show. Because I fucking love Taps, and I love their method, I love their ideology of, like, calm, scientific, try to debunk first. And I always respected them, like, a lot of my, like, thoughts about ghost hunting in general and, like, what I would approach as cool tools to use versus, you know, things I don't trust, honestly comes from them and a lot of watching them and things like that. But I always respected that the Ghost Hunters team, Taps, would always go in and they would, like, rely on very little flashy equipment. They used, like, cameras. They used... motion detectors, they used audio recorders, they would occasionally do the like flashlight trick, which is it's kind of considered a little iffy now, but I think there's still some good cases where it can be used, and we'll go into that in a minute. But yeah, and then they would use EMF detectors, but half of the time they'd be looking at like, what is it like in the room? At like, they take base readings and then check back later and see, okay, is something acting differently now? Which I think is a really key part of the process to be like, because there is no tool that detects ghosts. Like, and I say this as someone who believes in ghosts and would love to do a ghost hunt. There is no ghost tool. There just isn't. So the most you can do is get tools that read some part of the environment, and then you check for abnormalities. And if the abnormalities, like, have distinct patterns to them that are convincing or interesting, then you can chalk that up to potential evidence. Like, it's a whole process. And I always respected their approach because they were so, like, methodical about it. And they would be very, very kind of, I don't want to say quick to say, but they'd be very, like, critical of, like, oh, well, what is there rational explanation? And sometimes they would show evidence and be like, it could be this, but it was kind of weird for showing you anyway. And I just really respect that. And then you come to Zach Baggins. And Baggins, I don't care.
Bagel Bites.
Yes, you come to Ghost Adventures. Right?
Trademark and Christine and M.
Yes, X-Teen and M, the dynamic duo. But you come over to that side of, like, the ghost hunting table, which is dominating. That's, like, the only ghost hunting content you can find now, because everyone who's, like, good and calm, like, gets kicked off the air. They come over to their side, and like everything's a demon, everything's evil, everything's like needs to be screamed about, and like this giant drama, like ridiculous hot topic Ed Hardy vibes.
Anything happens and it's immediate screams.
And
screams.
And their tools are fucking wild. They're so wild. Because it's like, there are some things that are just so, like, that blow my mind where I'm like, why are we looking at this? And there's like one tool I'll talk about that they kind of popularized, I think, that I've recently come around to being kind of interesting, but not always. But like, they use this thing called an SLS detector, which I did not look into the science of how this works because it just seems silly. But it basically, you pan it around a room and it makes stick figures, and those stick figures are supposed to be people.
One.
And it looks stupid. And they act
really
like these stick figures are like 100% absolutely ghosts, and there's no possible other explanation for this. I'm gonna look up an SLS. Like SLS.
What was it? The Ghost
image.
Adventures. I think it was the Yuma prison one, and they're like
dancing.
It's dancing. Yeah. It's tap dancing, and I'm like, how can you tell a stick figure's fucking tap dancing, man? I don't understand. And he's like screaming this out. He's so excited about it. I'm like, you need to calm down. Take it down 5 notches.
Like 20 notches, please. But so just so you know, Amy, if you go into our on-air sharing, like that is, and this is straight from Google. I don't know if we'll even be able to really like share this picture later. Just look up like, I typed in SLS ghost image to a search engine. But that's it. That's all you see. And like in theory, if you put it over
what is actually making this image? Because it's completely like,
it makes no sense.
A manufactured image. Like what is something seeing that's creating this image is my, like, is it seeing one single dot and it's like all this is being filled in around it?
Yep. I pinpointed something right here and then the rest of it, I'm just
that's insane.
Deciding. Yeah. That could be, I don't know.
It literally, I think it has something to do with like laser imaging. And so it's like, it could be kind of cool, but it doesn't make sense because it's really like, so SLS where it is, or like this laser imaging, which, what is it? Work by projecting invisible infrared laser grids over a wide field of view. And it picks up points of interest and combines them together. And so sometimes you see a person. So I think the theory is like, if you have a ghost body there, like there are points of interest on the body and it makes a person. But it's like, it could be...
Or you're in a hallway or a square room and these images are all very square and rectangular. And so it's maybe picking up just the architecture of a hallway or a room. Yeah. Like other doorways, other things as a point of interest, maybe.
Exactly. And like there are some times where like you'll see it show up and it'll like move around and then disappear. But a lot of times it looks almost like it's glitching. Like it's like a person maybe moving slightly and catching different points of interest. And then like it disappears after it like reads for a while or figures out an environment. Like, and it's just something
especially if
so strange.
The camera is not stationary itself. I don't know how much I would trust that. The camera would have to be on a tripod.
So
not
stationary. Yes, but people hold it all the time and it drives me crazy. Because like, so this is one I hate this.
You'd have to be in a room or a hallway or something where there's absolutely no chance of like a car passing by. So the headlights are bouncing off of things at different rates. And like,
and that's very hard to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So even just like a shift in the clouds could bring in enough moonlight for a reflection to bounce off of something.
When you're talking about, a place like that they're probably going to look at that doesn't have a lot of electric light, right?
Yes.
It's very dark. So like any little bit of reflection is going to totally change the landscape of what you're pointing this piece of equipment at. 100%.
It's and it's just one of those things, and like it's always, and it's just the attitude. Like, so I'm gonna be maybe a little extra critical. I'm sure there'll be someone who's like, no, this ghost hunting equipment, it's actually cool because blah blah. And if it is, tell me. Like, go in the comments, tell me all about it. Love to learn. Yada yada.
Yeah,
I just am so
for sure.
I'm so critical of anything Zach Baggins like gets too excited about, because I just don't trust him, and I don't.
He's
trust
all
him.
about the drama. That's
He's
why.
all about the drama.
He needs something to create dramatic effect, and this is always going to find something and give him dramatic effect.
Because you can even just tilt your hand and find something, right? And it's like, I feel like that type of ghost hunting that he does, where it is all about the drama, and it's all about like making it look like crazy. You're not gonna pause and like take a look at, could something be causing this? Because if you went or and you panned around the room at night and you did like steady cam, like Joe said, on a tripod, slowly panning around, you mark where you catch like like certain things pop up, and then maybe you find a spot where it's kind of empty for a while, and then maybe start trying to talk to something, and then you get a response, then you get a reflection. Like, that could be a neat experiment. And a lot of ghost hunting, the only way that any ghost hunting equipment works is if it's treated like an experiment, and if you have a baseline, and they never do that.
Yeah.
And they always like, I don't think there's anything for this in the Oliver House episode, at least that I remember.
No, I don't think they used that in the Oliver House.
Yeah, I think it like came around.
It was later seasons. Oliver House was like season,
it's like early
6 or 7, I want to say, and their seasons then were only like 10, 15 episodes each.
Yeah, not
point.
anything
I don't
crazy.
think
that
they
was
were
early in their career.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one totally drives me crazy. Another one I hate. I'm going to tell you guys the ones I hate before I tell you the ones I like.
I love
so
this.
let me just
this
rag
method
on ghost hunting tools. Because this is me like setting the table for like what we're going to do as ghost hunters, because we have to be better than this.
That's great, because I have none of this fancy equipment, so that is not happening with us.
I'm going to send a picture of this guy in the chat, and it is... I can't just send a picture, because I have to send you the price too for this thing.
Oh, God.
That's also the other thing with ghost hunting equipment too, is not wanting to get too like
crazy expensive.
Yeah, because they get crazy expensive.
They
do.
Some
of these.
You can. So
the Ovilus.
Add to cart. Doing it. I'm adding it to cart. No, I'm just.
No, this one sucks. I've got a better one. You can add to cart, and it's $100. Like, that's what we want. No, we hate this one. I'll show you the one we like. First of all, I want you guys both to know that you can go on Amazon and just type ghost hunting search, and
I can bring up all sorts of shit. Yeah,
I am 1,000% sure you can.
Love that for us. The Ovilus. I hate the Ovilus more than anything, because all it does is generate words, and it generates one word at a time. It's like, do you know how easy that is to program a random word generator? And like, people act like it is like 100% absolutely without fail the voice from beyond. And it's like,
and if it has any logic built into it, which having a computer programmed piece of technology, it's got to have some logic programmed into it. You can never know unless you program it yourself and you write the code yourself if it's truly random or not.
Yeah.
You never know.
It could be whatever it wants. And then first of all, okay, and then the other thing that drives me crazy is like, yeah, it looks like a very simple, like, black box, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We're looking at the Ovilus 5 Ghost Box, which really just looks like a black box with like a little red screen, and then like a digital screen on that with some touch buttons and like 2 little prongs up top. It looks stupid, first of all. But it's like, okay, so if you take your phone, like Brett and I have done this before, not on purpose. You take your phone and you're just like talking to someone about something, and then like you go on your phone later, you start saying like, oh, ads for that thing? Like, oh, like, because your phone has a microphone and is listening? Do you know how easy it would be to like have anything like this where it's just like listening and like guessing, or even guessing what you're saying, like Joe said, where it's like, oh,
yeah,
we saw you respond to this, or maybe here's loud noises, so if you respond to something, like, I don't know. I didn't make this thing. I refuse to spend that much time researching this thing. I'm just saying, if your entire ghost evidence hinges upon a random word generator, like, try harder.
I don't trust that.
Try harder.
Yeah.
And people get it. Like, there are apps for this on your phone that people get, and it's like,
those I absolutely don't trust.
That is
100%
listening to what you're saying.
Yeah.
And of course, someone is in their best interest to make it generate content more frequently, so that
to keep you interested. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And so like the only way you can, and that's the other thing too I hate about this, is like you can't test it. Like, you can't put it in a room and then be like, have a no bias, like unless it was silent for 2 hours and didn't say a single word before you started using it, like you have
There's
to
no
throw
way
all
to know.
that out now.
Yeah.
So yeah. I hate
And that's
that.
also kind of impossible with the theory that ghosts could be literally anywhere. Literally any piece of land on this planet someone could have died on, and there could be residual energy left over or a spirit left over, however you want to think about ghosts. Like,
Yep.
not really possible. So,
No, it's just crazy. All right,
Nice.
so before I go into my list of like, well, I've got a list of like some controversial ghost hunting tools, and I've got a list of like my classic standbys that I think we should swear by. But before I go into that, just like a quick brain pick. As far as anything you know about ghost hunting, are there anything that like you've seen that like drives you crazy that you hate, you would never want to use?
And it's not because I don't think it's viable. I think it's much more viable than the Ovilus, but what's called a spirit box. I literally
I was gonna say that same one.
Yeah. I would be Shane Madej from fucking BuzzFeed or now Watcher. Just the loud noise that it makes would drive me nuts. If you can turn that down and you don't have to have it screaming at you to get anything, then I think it's fine. But the one they had in their episodes when they were in BuzzFeed yelled at them the second they turned it on. And like,
loud.
oh my God, no.
Yeah, like the white noise static was super loud, and then the words were like, I would be a freaking mess. Although you'd
have to get the right model.
This totally like leads me into one of the freakiest stories that I have ever been a part of. And it was when I was a teenager. So I'm just going to say it because...
Oh, shit. Yeah, tell us.
So it happened to my sister, Holly, and I. She had this car that was just like a little beater that she drove when we were teenagers. And I'm old. So back when I was a teenager, they had actual lighters in cars. Like they had these red, like you push them in and it would get hot and you'd light your cigarette with it. Well... hers in her little beater car was right next to like the change holder thing, and a penny fell in it and she didn't know, and so she pushed the lighter in and it like shorted out her electrical system. So the car still drove. This is back in the day, everything wasn't computerized. The car still drove fine. We just, we couldn't use the radio, we couldn't, like, the electrics were not working on the car, but it drove fine. So she drove everywhere. It had been like that for like several weeks to months at this time. Like we had just become accustomed to it. That's what this car is. It's just, you're driving in dead silence, just chit-chatting. It's the way it is. Never took it in to get it looked at. We knew we couldn't afford to get it fixed. Like we're just driving along one day, the two of us, only ones in the car. The radio had been silent for months, I'm going to say at this time. And we're not, I mean, if you know my sister and I, we're like, we were listening to like The Cure or punk music or something at that point in our lives. Definitely not AM radio. Definitely nothing religious. The whole car, as she's driving along, the whole thing lights up. Every light on the dashboard lights up. The radio comes on at full volume and goes, Jesus Christ! And then everything shuts down. And we're both like, she whipped over to the side of the road. We're both staring at each other like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Some like, ghost was in the car with you and went, oh my God, what is this?
Jumped out of the car, did not want to get back in. We were like both hyperventilating. It was the scariest. And it was like, that's what it reminded me of. It was like so loud and so jarring. And like our hearts were, it was so fucking scary. And then it never, like, it didn't work again after that. Like it never flipped back on, and like that was it.
That's terrifying.
So that's freaking scary.
So scary. That's so scary.
So we had Christine. We had a haunted car.
I don't like that.
You had some ghost in your back seat. They either just randomly got in there and they were like some old timey ghost that did not know what a car was, or it was like some suburban mom or dad that was like super finicky with how you teach your kids to drive and went, oh my god, you didn't use your turn signal here.
It was 100% Holly's driving, just freaked this poor ghost out and was like freaking the fuck out in the car. So yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Cheers, Holly.
Scared the fuck out of me.
It's no wonder because you're one of the most skeptical, like you both are very skeptical people, like very skeptical minded, and you definitely, I know, Amy, are super like that, but I know you've always believed in stuff like this. Like you've always kind of started that line, and like no fucking wonder. It's like I used to be like, wow, it's cool how my mom like somehow is in both these lanes, and I'm like, oh, it's because it's
because something was beating me over the head. Yeah. Like I'm here.
Hello.
That's what it takes.
Yeah,
that's what it takes. But no, I'm so glad you guys brought up the spirit box because that was the next one I was actually going to talk about. And it is so loud. And like, I've never heard one in person, but like, I can only imagine it would be like the most jarring. And I used to be, I will admit, I used to be very on the fence about the spirit box because it felt like it could just be like really random and like, maybe. But like, the more I like read about it and saw it, like, I thought it was like kind of interesting, and it's like, okay, like understanding the way it works, like it's flipping through radio channels like so fast that like, especially if you get 2 words in a row, like it should be really rare that like that would ever happen organically. So and you know, there's lots of stories about ghosts kind of interfering with TV, radios, technology, stuff like that to make noises. So I'm like, okay,
that I would believe in more than the fucking Ovilus, but at the same time, so fucking loud. I don't know if it's just the model they had or.
Well, there are, I think, a couple like attachments you can make on it that are that tamper out some of the white noise and just produce the sounds. But what actually really sold me on the spirit box is this really cool trick I've seen people do called the Estes method. And I found out about it first through another ghost hunting show I love called Kindred Spirits, which has Amy Bruni and Adam Berry, who were TAPS members back on Ghost Hunters. They got their own show, and they are same vibes. Love them. They're super calm, like down to earth, like very just like chill. But they use the spirit box with what's called the Estes method. And what they do with that is one of them will be like the interviewer. The other one is essentially the communicator. And you have the communicator with the spirit box connected to headphones, which after our conversation I'm getting would have to be me all the time. And usually a blindfold. So they are sensory deprived, because it should be noise canceling headphones. It should be a blindfold. And then you have the person kind of communicating usually softly, so that the person who's listening to the spirit box in theory cannot hear, or at least cannot hear well, what the other person is saying. And they are just calling out any words that they see or any words that they hear from the spirit box. And then it's really cool. If you haven't seen any of Kindred Spirits, like just look them up, try to type in like some of their, spirit box sessions, because like you can get some really cool back and forth. Like it's a thing that really sold me on the spirit box as a tool at all, is like you can get, like if you have one person who in theory has got like their back turned to them or even just outside the room, like just listening to the spirit box and one person kind of sitting nearby enough to ask questions, and then like you have this disjointed like almost this disjointed question and answer session, then you like line it up as you go along. Like I've seen some crazy things like from this. And yeah, I know it's TV, blah, blah, might be staged, blah, blah. But I'd be very interested to try it myself and see. Because I think it's very neat. And I think there's a lot of potential there. So
okay.
Just gonna have this like little cord hanging now because my headset started to die in the middle of me talking. But yes, no, I'm very, as far as like a more expensive piece of ghost hunting equipment goes, very, very interested, would be down to fuck with the spirit box. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And sorry, Joe, I think you had commentary.
I did. I was just going to say the line that we were talking on at that point was like who we've seen use it. And I will say, like, it kind of depends on who you see use it as to whether or not I think they would likely be telling the truth.
That's
Yes,
true.
all TV could be getting staged, but at the same time, like, there's just some that you kind of get that feel of, like, I don't think they necessarily would, because it's a lot of work, and I don't see them putting that effort into it for various reasons. One being because it's not the truth, but two, also being because it's a lot of fucking work, and I wouldn't fucking put the work in to stage it. But, like, Zach Baggins, I could maybe see staging it a little bit.
100%.
A little bit.
I mean, it goes 100% a long way if you have, you know, like a Shane Madej on your team. Someone who doubts from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to be in for doing some shady stuff to make it. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a doubter or at least a very scientific mind on your team, that's like, no, you need to show me the evidence.
Yes.
And that goes a long way with me.
Kind of all of us a little bit, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I told you, I mean, I started this topic like telling you that I am very, I'm very picky with my evidence. Like, one thing I always respect about TAPS is, like, I don't trust orb photos because of them. Because I'm like, that could be a bug or a speck of dust. Like, I need to see a connection. And I think I'm at, like, spending a lot of time talking about this. So I'm going to, like, kind of rapid fire some of my commentary on some of the, like, remaining tools and, like, what I think is cool or not. But I think there's a lot of, you know, Spirit Box I think is very bougie. I think it could give some decent results in theory. Another one I think is kind of on the iffy scale, but I think you can get I've seen some really good sessions about, so I wouldn't discount completely. It's the flashlight method. For those of you who don't know what that is, you take a flashlight, you unscrew the cap most of the way so that if you touched it, it would turn on. Challenges I've seen with this are that it is very finicky, so sometimes it just goes off and on its own without the touch, and you also have the problem of trying to stabilize it, because if it's moving, then it could turn itself off and on. They do make some tools that try to counteract that now, like light up motion sensors, where it's like it'll light up one side or the other. You can do yes, no questions. But even using the flashlight method, I've seen some compelling stuff, and I think the key is if you're getting intelligent answers. If it seems random, if you have to ask for the same thing multiple times until it turns on, like, probably discount. But if you're getting, like, responsive answers or something that feels intelligent, I think it could be compelling, if not the most scientific. But I'm going to say, like, going back kind of full circle to where I started this, I will say, as far as ghost evidence I trust the most, it's going to be your most basic environmental type readings, like any tools that will collect environmental type readings. So you can do a baseline reading for like 20 minutes, just see what's going on, or even just a quick walkthrough, and then come back, try to host a session where you're being interactive, you're calling things forward and trying to incite a bit of a chit chat, and then like see if things change. So for me, King and Queen are always going to be just a good old fashioned video recorder and an audio recorder. Like, that is the evidence for me that like really brings it home, is if I see something on video moving, or even like, I know I said no orbs, but sometimes you have like the mists and streaks, especially paired with audio together.
Yeah. And if it moves in a really weird way too. If it's just like drifting a bit, that's
there's a way that a piece of dust floats
or something.
There's
a way that a bug flies, you know.
Yes. But agreed. And I think but that gives you the availability to kind of, there's always going to be that decision making, but having just kind of that baseline, and especially if you get both of them together, like if you have things that correlate, always better evidence, I think. And then I do like, if you're looking for something cheap, but kind of a next level, I love an EMF detector, and I love a thermal detector. And they do have thermal cameras; those can be expensive, but you can get a thermal gun and just like point it at cold spots and see if it really is cooler or hotter where you are feeling this like difference. And then EMF, mostly like, there's some, you know, back and forth iffiness. They are sensitive. So some people are like, maybe not the best for detecting ghosts, but really good for detecting electrical problems. And high EMF in your house can lead to experiencing different things. So always good to maybe get a baseline reading and then see like, lots of issues are reported here. There's high EMF here. maybe they need to call an electrician versus like, oh, we took a baseline reading, everything was fine. Now we're talking to something and it's going off the charts. That might not be definitive, but that could be something. So, so that is my Amber rundown. I will say there are some fun ones too. Like if you literally, if you haven't yet, do 100% just go on Amazon and type in ghost hunting, because like I'll show you guys.
I can't even imagine.
Wild. They have
I found
that
some
one right there in the bottom right. That's like, it's like an EMF detector, I think it is. And then it comes with basically light up cat toys.
Yes.
That you can place on the floor and they'll light up if they move.
Yes.
Like,
it's
the most basic thing.
But so cool. I love this. The one I sent you guys. So this, I'm showing them some of my like perusing on Amazon. There's a full like Power Rangers style set of EMF detectors. You could like color code with your friends. Like,
I mean, I was gonna say I'm a sucker for color coding. So, and I see a purple one, which I know piqued Joe's interest. So,
and there's an orange one for Amy. I'll grab a green or a yellow. We'll all be good. But yeah, there's like audio recorders or EMF detectors, like Joe said, that come with just motion sensor lights. I think that's actually a really good compromise to the flashlight situation too, where it's just like, if you move it,
you have to have something actually move it. And if it's on a flat surface and nothing else was near it, there's no wind, all the doors and windows are closed, like that I think could be sufficient evidence for something.
And then another one I've got to show you guys just because it's super fun.
It's in a coffin!
Oh my god.
It's a motion sensor music box.
I love it.
So it is like, it's crazy.
That is so cute.
It's a little music box shaped like a coffin. It's got a little wire that comes up, and in theory, like I think it might be EMF. Like it makes a field, and if something motion sense like gets too close to it, it plays like music and stuff like that, which is wild.
I love that.
And
only if it plays like, I don't know, like the music from Halloween or something. Like it's got.
I was thinking like the Addams Family theme.
Oh, that's great. I don't know. I didn't look into it. I didn't look into what sound it plays, but like. I just love that it exists. It is an absorbent amount of money, but I do love that it exists.
$150 for a wooden box that plays music is a bit much, but
meanwhile,
super cute.
For like, what was it? $25? You can get an EMF reader or an audio recorder and some cat toys, and then you're good to go. So
yeah.
I feel like when we do our ghost hunt, we're gonna start like, you know, we'll each pick like a single thing on Amazon. We'll coordinate beforehand so we don't show up at the same time.
Yeah, just in case.
You get like one small piece of equipment, and then all of a sudden you have like a full suite of ghost hunting tools, and then you're just like, cool,
you're gonna have like your vampire hunting kit all of a sudden, like.
Yes, just like a full. Like,
those are available.
I know.
I think on Amazon.
I foresee this just spiraling out of control.
And you know what? That's okay. Everyone needs a hobby, Amy.
Amy, I just love the idea that you're like, oh, I'm worried this will spiral out of control, and you're saying that when we're.
But you're not stopping it.
We're 2 months into a podcast about this. Like, where did you think this was going?
Oh my god, I love it. I love it. I can't believe you thought. I mean, this must have been a rabbit hole that you went down for like hours.
I went down this rabbit hole so long. Because I did all my show notes for Oliver House, and then I saw the ghost hunting page, and I was like, man, fuck Ghost Adventures. And then I was like, you know who was good at their job? Taps. And then I was like looking through, and I was like, man, ghost hunting is so cool. I want to do a ghost hunt. It's a shame I can't be a ghost hunter. Like, you know.
But Amber, you can.
And then I was like, oh, but wait, Amazon exists.
You know what's even better though? If this is on Amazon, there's gotta be some like bedazzled fancy shit on Etsy that's based on this stuff.
Hell yeah.
Like I can find me a pink painted coffin music box with
probably
all kinds of sparkles on it.
A painted like Barbie coffin music box.
Yes. I want the 100%. Barbie core version of it.
Thanks, Amy. Now I'm going down another rabbit hole tonight. Etsy ghost hunting. I didn't even start on Amazon. I started with a Google search of just like ghost hunting tools. After I was like, man, that would be a fun like
Amazon
topic.
Pops up, man.
And then Amazon pops up and it's like, oh, honey, Bezos has what you need. Don't worry. I'm like, shit, I guess.
It's like, I hate that I support Amazon, but at the same time, I don't want to go to the store and buy a 40-pound bag of dog food that I have to lug home myself, you know?
I mean, realistically, like, what store are you going to go to that's not also owned by a corporation?
Yeah, that too.
Very true. Very true. Etsy!
Do you know how much that would cost? I'm not. It's all
individual
money.
Artists. I know. I know.
If I was rich, 100. But yeah.
Unfortunately, we're not. So.
Unfortunately, we just do a podcast, so we're not rich.
Yes. Yes. We're, in fact, the opposite of rich. So if you would ever like to see us ghost hunt and like see clips of that, you can join our Patreon. and support our efforts to buy some of this crazy. We promise we won't use your money to buy the Ovilus 5 ghost box for a measly $599.95. Okay, nope. The craziest we're gonna get is SB7 Spirit Box $94.90. What a steal!
Only way we would buy that is if you specifically gave us that exact amount of money to buy it to use.
And you were like, you have to do it. Yes.
Yep. And I'm not telling you to do that at all. I'm just saying.
Please don't. We're actually asking you to not do that. But we have a lovely tier for like $1 a month, you know?
Yeah. That's
pretty chill. Join our Discord, talk to us about ghosts. It'll be nifty.
Awesome.
And that's it. That's my entire rabbit hole. I've been waiting like
ghost hunting
at least a month to talk to you guys about this, which
is awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, I'm going to go next because I feel like Joe's got a bigger finish than me. So mine is not even a rabbit hole. It was like a brain worm for me. Like it was just a little tiny concept that I just could not get over after my August research and topic. So y'all know I was highly disturbed by my August topic. I struggled with it. I had a very visceral reaction to this story.
Fuck that guy.
I know. Fuck that guy. But what I really just kept coming back around to, and it's not even really a fleshed out topic, I just can't get past it, is this concept of followers. And
yes.
Like how?
Like the fucking cult obsessions people have with murderers.
So, like the Manson family?
Yeah, and I think it's because, you know, I'm on here with my like-minded ladies. None of us are followers. Like it's just like it's not in our DNA to be that person. And I just kept coming back to it that it's not one follower. It's not one weak-minded person that followed this person and many others, murderers and other things that we hear about in history. And even in current times, let's not get political, but even in current times. But so many that are necessary for someone like this to go on and on. Like he would have been stopped after the first time if a single person was like, this is fucked up. Like, what the fuck is going on here?
And so many people he bragged to, so many people he told shit to, like,
show bodies to, like, dragged them out to the Arizona desert and was like, look at my dead body. Like,
and what the only reason he got turned in by his own friend was because he was thinking about killing the girl that his friend wanted to fuck. And that, everybody, not a good last resort reason to rat somebody out. If you're scared for your own safety, I can kind of understand why you might not go directly to the police with something and you might try and find another route to stop them. But same time, just that's not and don't stalk the girl too, because isn't that what his friend did? Is he like stalked the girl to try and protect her? He had like white knight syndrome or some shit.
For sure. Like maybe just tell me the danger and I'll take care of my fucking self. I don't need you to be a weirdo circling my house 24/7.
I don't need you to decide what I need for protection. Thank you.
But yeah, so I can't get past that. And when I just started thinking of, to your point, like Manson family, like other cults, and even like, because I'm just such a documentary junkie and I'm constantly like on Netflix, like what's a new documentary? And so many of them are like these current like cult like situations. And I don't know how to wrap my brain. And that's not me saying like I'm better than that. I would never fall into this type of situation. It's that I literally cannot wrap my brain around how this perfect storm happens. Like I just can't get it.
And to me, that's almost like scary because it's like
it could happen to anybody.
Yeah.
It could happen to the smartest fucking people on the planet. They just were in the right place at the right time with the right person.
Right emotional state, the right level of vulnerability.
Talk them into it. Yeah.
Yes. And I wonder like how much of it is that like leader's charisma and how much of it is like the followers like mindset. Like is there anything you can do that like prevents yourself? Or is it like if it's just the right person who's got like the right way to worm himself into your insecurities. Like, can it just happen to you? Which is probably one of the scariest things about cults. Like like cult documentaries are some of the things that will like really give me the heebie-jeebies like faster than anything. And it's just because it's like, it's so on top of usually being like just gross behavior. Like it's just so like viscerally
It's disturbing. It's disturbing. Well, like, and so many of them, when they look back, they're like, "Oh yeah, of course." In retrospect, I see
that was
5,000 red flags, but they couldn't see it while they were in it. And to me, I'm like, yeah, to your point, like, what leads to that? That's crazy. Well, and that, to me.
I mean, that phrasing too just reminds me. So, okay, not kind of a documentary. No, doesn't matter. Have you guys ever seen the show Who the Bleep Did I Marry?
Yes,
I've seen.
So that's
absolutely,
for it.
And it's like
it's
all of these women in some men. I've seen a few men on there too. I'm only like a few seasons in, but like these women get married super early into the relationship with these guys, and they're super charismatic, and they seem like everybody loves them, and they seem so down to earth. And then the second you're married, they've got you trapped, and they flip a switch.
But it's like, and it's one of those things where it's like some of them, even just talking about it leading up, it's like I can spot the red flags. Like, how did you not spot the red flags? And like, I will preface for that show, like, I mean, there's a lot of trigger warnings that go into like research that show before you watch it, because like anything that you could imagine could happen to these women does, and men, like I mean, Joe's point, does happen to them. I think the first 2 seasons, I've watched those. I saw like one with a guy, but I think the first season or 2 they launched it predominantly with mostly like, women's stories, and then they brought in guys later. So I haven't seen that many of them. But
for as many men out there say they have stories of like a crazy ex-girlfriend, it's, again, I forget what comedian it is, but a comedian had a joke at one point that was like, you never hear that about women. And it's like, oh yeah, because if you have a crazy ex-boyfriend, you're fucking dead. And that's essentially the same thing with this show.
Or in hiding. Yeah.
The reason that there aren't more men on it is because their idea of a crazy ex-girlfriend is really more of just like, oh, she won't let me see my kid, but she wants me to pay child support. Or she like screamed at me for hours, but leading up to the breakup because I wasn't doing things that she wanted me to do and I wasn't listening to her, and I put in work. How can you say I don't put in work? Like that kind of, like my ex kind of bullshit. You guys know that kind of bullshit. But like women that have stories about crazy ex-boyfriends or crazy ex-husbands, it's literally like, he punched me. He shoved me down the stairs. He threatened my life, and that's this show essentially.
Well, and there are some wild ones, because that's true. And I do want to do like quick PSA, like we're not saying that women can't be abusive and men, like,
of course not.
If you are listening and you are suffering abuse, like, you know, seek help. There are resources,
and that can also go into Joe's like point,
statistically, like, and that's, I think, well, and that's just like framing with this show, like the the premise was. I think started off as like women's stories, so like that's
it was like a TLC show to start
yeah.
off. So definitely
that's, like,
where that came from.
Yeah.
And there's also the premise again of like sometimes men don't report those things because they feel they have to keep up this like machismo persona.
Yes, it makes me less of a man too.
But even with that, like there are ways to statistically sort of configure what the real metrics might be in comparison to what's actually reported. It's still a lot lower for men than it is for women.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And it is one of those things too, because it's just like, I mean, there's so many levels to it. But no, this show is wild. And it's like, kind of to your point, Amy, like these followers, because it's like, and it's so weird because it's, and I know that an aspect of it is that like the person taking the lead, the like leader, is actively manipulating the follower, right? Like they know their insecurities, they know the right buttons to push and things to say, and they're actively preying upon them. Like that's part of the premise always, which is why followers, like, it can be a gray area. Like they're not 100% as bad or as evil. Like I don't think that they, you know, based on their own actions, should not be scot-free of punishment sometimes, but has to be taken in light of the fact that they are also a victim most of the time, right? But it's this show, like if you want to like kind of dive into that on like just a smaller case-by-case basis of like that divide, it's wild. Because there are some of them that are kind of the more, and it's really sad to say, the more common things you would expect, such as like, you know, violence, and like just kind of classic abusive behavior, which is honestly probably the most gross phrase I've ever had to say.
Yeah.
And the fact that you all know exactly what that means.
The fact that you can put the word classic in front of that is just disgusting. But at the same time, it's true.
But you knew because what I meant.
There's so many other flavors.
That's the bad part, right?
Yeah.
But there's some wild ones there. Like there was one where it was like a man whose wife mysteriously died, and she found a really big insurance policy, like that level of manipulation. And there's other ones like, meanwhile, like he was like love bombing her, and like other ones where it was like, my husband was like a spy or something like that.
Oh, like, yes, I remember that one. The Cuban spy, yes.
Yes, like leading a double life and like just wild. And like but it's one of those things like I just like it so baffles me, like what type of mindset do you have to be in where you are that ready to ignore like red flags? And maybe you see one and you're like, oh, it's just one thing, we all have faults, but like when you start stacking them up, like when do you draw the line? Because like that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's like, and I'm totally gonna butcher this, but there's that like old adage about like, how do you boil a frog or whatever, 1 degree at a time. You don't go you don't go all in to the wall right away. Yeah, it's like inches and inches and inches.
Was it the Twin Flames documentary on Netflix?
Oh, that one totally freaked me out.
Like it started off so kind of like innocent of like we
and
had
hopeful.
This sort of like metaphysical aspect, this sort of new agey aspect of like we're trying to help you find like your true partner. But then delved into like, oh, well, we're getting these followers and we're using them for money so that, and also, by the way, I could not believe that they lived in Arizona and I had no idea this was going on.
Me too!
I've not watched this documentary. I need to now. Like,
oh, you need to. It's
good.
So crazy. But a little bit of a spoiler, Amber, I'm sorry. But it got to the point where they were like, we have too many women in this group. We don't have enough men. Why? Because there's so much societal pressure on women to find a partner. And there were so many of them that were straight, they were essentially convincing some people to become
that
trans
they were lesbians
or to become gay. Yeah, either opposite. Like, both of those things happened.
Like
people started getting gender affirming care because they've been told you're actually supposed to be a guy and you're supposed to be with this person.
Like it started as like, we're gonna help you find your twin flame, and then it morphed into, it's not your twin flame unless we verify it's your twin flame. To, we're going to tell you who your twin flame is, and that's who you're going to be with. It doesn't matter if they're the same sex.
Forcing people into relationships and stereotypes and lifestyles that they maybe never would have chosen for themselves. And like, at the same time, I also just want to put out there, I do believe in twin flames. However, I think that twin flames are just that it's so similar to you that it's not likely you're necessarily like each other's partner or the other half of the person. You're so similar that things are meant to go down in flames. Because I personally think I may have met a twin flame early on in my life, and that relationship did not go well at all. And like, so the only true like drama relationship that I've ever had, because that's what it was. We were so similar. There was no way for us to just not butt heads or have all of these issues. We felt like we knew each other so well we needed to be together, but then at the same time we were so similar that it just wasn't gonna fucking work, you know? So just I don't think that necessarily the idea of twin flames in the sense of that group should always be thought of that way. Maybe sometimes you can think of it that way. It depends on the person and how you view it, but that's definitely being used to manipulate people.
Oh God, yeah.
No, 100%. And that's the hard part too, is like if you just have someone who's like good at manipulating people. Like I think that's it. Which is
like
why
a fucking true
narcissists are great at that.
True sociopath.
Yeah.
But going back to our ghost hunting topic, I think this is why everyone needs to keep like a Shane friend around. Because I think everybody just needs somebody they can go to that will cut through the bullshit.
Yeah.
I feel like what most of those situations are missing is like no one had a sounding board to be like, no, honey, you're not crazy. Like that's weird. We should go to the police. Or, you know, in Amy's story, unfortunately, you do have the person, and then guess what? Now they die now.
Yeah.
Now they have to be the first victim.
Yeah. So, yeah, I could not, it was just like this thing that got in my brain that I could not let go of just like, and that's just one instance. That's one murderer, right?
Yeah.
Like how many people, let's not even talk about Nazi Germany, but how many people have lost their lives because people just got swept in this wave of
all my friends are doing it, or the cool kid is doing it and I want to be like them, so I'm gonna tag along with it or just watch them do it and not say anything.
Yeah, or I'll look like the weird awkward one if I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like it's just so like how many people have been affected by that?
Okay, that reminds me of God, I don't remember if it was like a full social experiment. I feel like I saw it on like a show, and I don't know if it was like just a little thing that they did as like a funny in the show, or it was based on something larger. Butchering this completely right now. That reminds me of this like little, and it is like a social experiment no matter what the context, but like they had this person in, like they've done experiments where like they have this person in a waiting room, and then like the sound beeps, and then like people stand up and like sit back down, and they have somebody new enter the waiting room and they don't know what's going on and they just start doing it. Or I've seen another riff on that where it's like they're in the waiting room and smoke starts coming in, but no one else reacts to it. So they just like sit down and they don't move. And it's just, like, why?
Like, to me, that it's just fascinating. And maybe it's because I am kidding myself that I'm so not a follower. Who knows if I was in some of these situations, what I would end up with. But the
humans are really social creatures.
We are so desperate to be social.
Like, as much of an introvert as I am, I'm definitely still not going to be that person in a room that's like, oh, there's smoke coming in, but nobody else is doing anything about it. Maybe they know that this is a normal thing and I don't need to say anything. Like, I could definitely see myself doing
you have like that anxiety level too of like, oh, if I say something, is it going to be wrong? And like, there's so many factors that could play into that it's just like, which is why it's like anybody who in the moment feels like they can be a leader, like needs to lead for good. Like see something, say something. Like if you know something wrong.
Yep, that's where I fall back on my little, like, I am the biggest believer in that little voice. And 90% of the time, mine is the little devil on my shoulder speaking into me.
Just do it.
But I still listen to it. I'm still like, that's a pretty fucking good idea, devil. I will do that. But every once in a while,
with horns.
Every once in a while, it has served me right, and I've been like, that. Nope, I'm going to speak up. This doesn't seem right, and And there have been times that, you know, people didn't agree with me. And there have been times where other people were like, I felt the same way. I just didn't want to say anything. So it's so weird to me that you can get around just these groups, these masses of people.
Yeah.
And nobody has that feeling and believes in it enough to speak up and say something.
Or even to talk to other people about it.
Yeah.
It's like they're, if you're feeling it, you might not be the only one. And then I guess that can be a double-edged sword because depending on who you talk to, they might, depending on how far
because
in they are. But
I mean, there are cults and there are like who you're going to go to if everybody's in this cult. But in this particular instance of the story I covered in August, these were kids.
It wasn't a cult.
They had parents. They had families. They had school friends. They had other people outside of these groups that they could have been like, I think I might have witnessed something kind of weird. You know what I mean?
Or he's been talking and it's kind of weird. But
yeah.
Wow.
He's been saying he's murdered people. I don't know what to do about this.
He walks around in cowboy boots stuffed with tin cans. I don't know why we're all following him.
This guy's just kind of a weirdo. I don't get the vibes.
He's got this plaster on his nose. He said he fought the mob. Like, I don't understand how those two things go together.
I love it.
Anyways.
So yeah, that's my topic. I had to get it out because I couldn't let it go. So
yeah. No. It's insane to think about. Yeah.
And it's like, honestly, like I can see that being an earworm because that could be such a rabbit hole because you can go, I mean, so many directions. Like,
yeah,
you could just do a straight up, like, I bet you could do an entire like semester psychology course just on that small topic. And that.
I'm sure it exists. Yeah.
Yeah.
Insane.
Well, good one. I hated thinking about it, but like discussing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does make sense, yes. All right, I guess it's my turn now.
With your double feature.
Dueling topics.
My double feature. So again, both of these are probably gonna piss us off at some point.
Yeah.
The first one I am gonna prelude with and say that it is more of a PSA to something currently going on because we have talked about the native peoples, particularly in the Southwest, and things that are sort of perceived about them and things that are still happening to them. I don't know if you guys have heard, but there is actually a huge issue going on right now wherein they are fighting against uranium transports across the Navajo Nation at the moment.
Oh.
That sounds great.
I did not know that.
Yep. So it started about a month ago, I want to say now. And they really, first of all, the Navajo Nation has a 2012 tribal law banning uranium transport on its lands. So this should not be happening regardless of whether it's the federal government or the Navajo Nation's government that's doing it. They have a law. You need to respect it. However, Energy Fuels Inc. did not follow this, and in fact, they did not tell the Navajo Nation that they were planning on transporting this material.
Boo.
And Arizona's governor signed it in as okay to do. So
no.
Current governor?
I know.
Current governor?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, if you were gonna say the old one, I would have believed that in a heartbeat. But
not
that makes me very unhappy. That makes me very unhappy.
So mad.
Yep. So I told you these are going to piss us off.
In Arizona, not this.
Because even if you're a Democrat, it's if your skin's a certain color, it's not as important, I guess.
Apparently,
unfortunately, it's not being very widely discussed or publicized. They are having regular walks across the highways, trying to protest and stop this transport, and I believe now it's been stopped until there is a trial to discuss. But some did get through and they couldn't necessarily just stop. Like they did kind of stop them at some point with a blockage, but they got moved at a certain point. And so some did go through. And yes, there is a quote in one of the articles that I'm going to link to this as well, that says tens of thousands of trucks have safely transported uranium ore across northern Arizona since the 1980s with no adverse health or environmental effects from the president and CEO of Energy Fuels Inc. But
what do I care what a CEO has to say?
I do also want to just bring to light, it doesn't, first of all, it's not your land. It's going against their
it's not
law.
your choice.
You don't have a decision in it, and neither should our governor, honestly.
No.
The Navajo Nation's president should be the only person that really gets to give you the go-ahead if they decide to. Yeah. Second of all, it doesn't matter if you've been able to transport it safely in the past. There's always a chance for some sort of accident, and because you didn't even give them forewarning that this was going to happen, they could not try and be prepared for it. They don't have a lot of resources to really be prepared for an incident like that, in my opinion, from all that I've learned about the different reservations and the very sparse resources that they do have available to them, but they couldn't even attempt to, essentially, because you didn't tell them it was going to happen. And there is a long-standing history for reservations across the U.S. with particularly uranium ore and the effects of its mining and transport. So there's a second article I'm going to link as well. It's from Environmental Health News. And it sort of just goes into some of the background of this. There's around 15,000 abandoned uranium mines with uranium contamination in 14 Western states, and 75% of those are on federal and tribal lands. Cool. So it's not public land, it's mostly tribal lands. Cool. So any of that contamination is probably going to affect them more than it would the greater population. And the contamination is particularly concentrated across the Colorado Plateau near the Four Corners region of Arizona, Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico. And they were transporting this material through the Navajo Nation from Arizona to Utah. So obviously, this is a huge issue, other than the fact that there is a tribal law in place stating you are not allowed to transport that across their lands. Mm-hmm. So there's just so much, there's like tons of issues where they were predominantly like employed as miners and they weren't given proper safety precautions in like the 1940s to 60s. Really bad like cleanup in the 1980s, which the reservations and the different native nations really should not have been responsible for because it wasn't their mines. They did not own them. They were owned by other companies like this Energy Inc., whatever. There's 521 abandoned uranium mines on Navajo land alone, and 90% of uranium mining in the U.S. took place just outside of Native American reservations. And it left a legacy of dirty water, leftover toxic waste, and health problems such as lung cancer, developmental delays for children in many Western tribes, as well as anything else that this pollution could have attributed to. So there's tons of health concerns, there's tons of safety concerns that are still affecting them to this day from actual mining in the 1940s through the 60s. And they want to transport this material across native lands with the possibility that accidents can happen. And you did not give them a heads up, and it's against their tribal laws. So
hashtag
not great.
Energy Fuels Inc. is what we're saying.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
This sounds like even that company name sounds like just a ridiculous like James Bond bad guy company.
Oh yes,
like,
absolutely.
I'm just gonna say
Lex Luthor 2.0. Okay, first of all, I just want to say, fuck like 90% of CEOs. I'm sure there are like some like cool small companies that are good, but like I do not want to hear a CEO of a country, God, Amber, a CEO of a company like saying, "Oh yeah, our thing is like totally fine and totally safe. Like we're not gonna like talk about like energy commissions and like we're not really gonna like ask like researchers to verify that. Just like, but I said it's safe. Like so,
just trust me.
Just like listen to me." Like, honestly, no. That makes me feel even worse about it, actually. Now I feel kind of icky, because I just kind of feel icky when most CEOs talk, and I don't like it.
Mm-hmm. So, and again, it doesn't matter if it's been safe in the past. There's still the possibility that there's that one-off chance that something goes wrong.
Well, and if it's so freaking safe,
it's so safe,
truck it through all the truck it through the white neighborhoods with the Starbucks and the TJ Maxx and the Trader Joe's and see how they feel about it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we don't need to tell anyone about this. Like, it's so fucking shady. So it's like, if it's so safe, then why aren't we like letting people know? Why is it a secret if it's so safe? I don't get it.
And it, again, is not being very widely reported on. When I did this research like 2 weeks ago, when it first popped up in like my own feed, there were only 8 reports out in the news at that time. There's a few more now, but it's still not very widely represented anywhere, and it's not like a hot button topic, and I think it really kind of should be. Because again, going against tribal law, first off, it should not be happening. That's it. You need to give them their autonomy.
Government, the U.S. government has nothing to say about what goes on
that is the decision they made. You need to respect it, and if you're refusing to do so, then you need to be held accountable for that shit. But also, that should be something that's widely discussed with communities that you are planning to transport any material through, to make sure that you have safety precautions in place, that you have a plan in place, and that people are aware that it's going to be happening. You shouldn't just be doing it willy-nilly and not telling people about it. That's not the way to... If it was going through...
I own this
Central,
road.
It's
a toll road now.
People would know.
$1 million. $1 million to drive down my toll road in your truck.
Truly, yes. Ugh. But yeah.
Every time you drive down this road, $1 million.
Yep, 1 million here, 1 million back. You better not stop at a gas station because it's $1 million to get back on the road.
That gas station is going to be $1 million a gallon. I don't know what to tell you.
Yes. Sorry. That's the going rate nowadays for uranium trucks.
Your own fault.
100%.
But yeah, so I just wanted to do a quick little PSA on that because I think it's incredibly infuriating, especially because, again, with a lot of the topics that we do cover, there's going to be a lot of overlap, especially with Southwest states and some of like the Midwest states with Native nations and issues that are there for them or some of their lore. It's going to happen. I think we need to bring some of the issues they're still facing today to light. Like, a lot of people on reservations don't have access to, like, trash removal. They don't have access to running water or electricity sometimes, depending on where exactly in the reservation they're located. And it's a greater majority of it than people really realize. So, yeah, they have, like, this great sparse of land they were given by the government, and they have, quote-unquote, autonomy given to them as their own separate nations. But at the same time, we're fucking ignoring that and we're not helping them at all. You're expecting them to just build this all up on their own without giving them any resources when you took them off of their original lands hundreds of years ago and massacred them into almost extinction for some of these tribes. Like, I don't think it doesn't sit right with me that this is happening. So I just thought we'd talk about it a little bit. So point 1 of 2 that's going to piss us off. Next one, it's not going to piss you off right away.
Okay.
But this one is actually closer related to my topic from August. So, August, we were talking about the Phoenix Lights for my episode. And we mentioned Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. And none of us had ever really heard of it before. Mainly because we're in Phoenix and that one's in Tucson. And who fucking goes to Tucson, you know? So, I thought I'd talk about that a little bit. So Davis-Monthan Air Force Base is a U.S. Air Force base in the southeast of downtown Tucson, and it was established in 1925, originally as a landing field, and is the host unit for Davis-Monthan AFB in the 355th Wing, assigned to the 12th Air Force, part of Air Combat Command. I don't necessarily know what a lot of that means, but I'm sure some people listening might. And I'm sure it's important because Wikipedia said it was important.
Thank you, Wikipedia.
The base is best known as the location for the Air Force Materiel Command's 309th Aerospace Maintenance and Regeneration Group, or AMARG, and Aircraft Boneyard for all excess military and U.S. government aircraft and aerospace vehicles.
Now that I've heard of. By many people. I have
heard of that one. Yeah.
That I think is the more popularly known aspect of it. Yes. So as the main location for the 309 AMARG, this Air Force Base is the sole aircraft boneyard for excess military and U.S. government aircraft that they work on and other aerospace vehicles such as ballistic missiles. Tucson's dry climate was chosen specifically because of the alkali soil That makes it an ideal location to store and preserve aircraft, and there are more than 4,000 military aircraft parked on the base. So it's just a really good storage area, essentially. It's not likely that they're going to corrode. Yeah. We don't get enough water.
I'm not going to lie. My entire mental image is the elephant graveyard from The Lion King. And I don't think there's any difference. But like with the plane sticking out of the dry.
I might have a more accurate image. Was that not the location used for that one Transformers movie where they find that old rusty plane that ends up being a Transformer?
And it's like might have been
giant airplane graveyard. I think that might be where it was filmed.
I did not find that in any of my research, but it wouldn't surprise me.
So little of Transformers.
Or maybe I made that up in my head.
You could have made that entire thing up, and I would not know. So
it's
I'm
possible,
gonna go with, sure.
You know.
That sounds right. To me, in my depth of Transformers knowledge, 100% correct.
So, May of 1946, more than 600 B-29 Super Fortresses and 200 C-47 Skytrains had been moved to this airbase. In addition, about 30 other aircraft were stored there as well that were destined for museums, including the Enola Gay and the Bockscar, which were the planes that dropped the atomic bombs. And they are still there today.
Yep.
Fun fact, wasn't my great-grandfather on those?
He was on ones that, no.
Not when they dropped the bombs.
No.
Though.
He flew a lot over Europe, I think. He might have had a tour that way as well, but I don't think he had anything to do with those bombs.
No, I just thought I remember hearing a story of him with a picture in front of one or with one of the planes.
Yeah,
so I wasn't
he
sure
might have, but he did most of his tour in Europe.
Cool.
Took pictures.
Sorry, that was like
yeah. He laid in the belly of a plane and took pictures of the aftermath as they dropped the bombs in Europe. So, yeah, he was lots of stories that one.
Yeah, I bet. That's funny.
Is this the same one that like left crosses for you, Amy, or is it?
No, that was my grandpa. This is my his dad.
His grandma's Nana's dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
His father-in-law.
You guys have too much information about your families. I don't know any shit about my families.
The coolest thing about that, that I remember is I remember that I thought he got a picture with that, probably just because he took pictures and so we got it afterwards. I may be mixing those stories, but I was always obsessed with the story of my great grandfather, who was in World War II, married my great grandmother after the deployment when he got home,
when he got back.
And so it being like war times and such, she made her wedding dress out of a parachute that he had.
Oh, I remember that story. That's so cute.
His parachute that he had never had to use because he had never had to.
Lucky him, yeah.
Yeah. Her
wedding dress is in a museum in Illinois right now, and she made it out of.
I didn't know it was in a museum. I've probably seen pictures of it then, because I know I've seen pictures of wedding dresses made out of parachutes.
Yeah, you might have,
I might have,
And it was like the coolest thing I'd ever heard of. For a hot minute, not like when I was planning, but like leading up to thinking about it more and stuff like that, like it had been a thought in the back of my head, like I would love to wear that. And like, because we're family, like in theory, I could get access to it, but like, she was tiny. Like,
she was like a size 0. She was
like, there is no chance because I am not like, there was just no chance that it would ever fit.
All right.
So that was my fun fact about
cool fun anecdote. We'll have to look it up and see if I can get any pictures of that for the post.
Yes.
But so in 1965, the Department of Defense decided to close the Litchfield Park storage facility in Phoenix. So Luke Air Force Base was also being used for storage in Arizona. Again, kind of a similar atmosphere, but they decided to close that and specifically use Davis-Monthan Air Force Base for storage. So they moved a bunch of stuff from the Navy surplus air fleet into Davis-Monthan from Luke Air Force Base. And in that same year, the aircraft from Litchfield Park being moved from Phoenix to Tucson mostly was able to be moved by truck, which was a cheaper alternative than moving planes from their protective coverings, flying them, and protecting them again, because it really used less fuel, honestly, more than anything else. And again, the land in Arizona, at least from Phoenix to Tucson, is relatively flat. So you're not going through a bunch of mountain ranges. It's really easy to move, which is another reason why this was chosen as a storage location, was also not just because it's a desert and it's not like they're going to rust or corrode or something as easily, but also because it's very easy to transport them here once you can get them to that flat land.
Yeah.
So I do have a quick link that has some images you guys can go through of the airplane boneyard. And this does include images of the Enola Gay and boxcar, as well as just general images. Some of them are a lot older, of what this looked like as it was really being built and formed as a storage space, and some of the really, really old planes that some of which are still there, like the Enola Gay and the boxcar. So what it's pretty much known for as the boneyard, there's not a huge amount. There used to be, from my research, from what I understand, there used to be tours that you could take in the boneyard. However, there are still tours, but from what I can find, it doesn't seem like they can actually take you in the boneyard. They more so just take you around the area of it. So you can kind of see through the fences. You don't actually really get to go into it.
Well, I'm sure with the way things are today, people have done some really stupid shit when you let them be that close to historical artifact. Let's face it, historical artifacts.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to that in just a moment, because here's the part where it kind of, it's more interesting at this part. So I didn't want to talk about it just as an Air Force base because that would be boring, but I needed to pad it with something else. Because here's where it might piss you off a little bit. So unsurprisingly, many of the planes were piloted by people who have passed, some of who passed in action, possibly even piloting some of these planes or partially piloting. And there's one in particular that terrifies the workers. And this is supposedly a World War II pilot's ghost that likes to wander the base. Security police patrolling Davis-Monthan Air Force Base boneyard allegedly have seen the specter of a fighter pilot dressed in World War II era gear slowly walking among the old aircraft, perhaps searching for his own plane. Some have said the headlights of their patrol vehicles go out during these encounters, the flashlights don't function. Others said the ghostly figure walks through the security fence and across Kolb Road before disappearing. And that entire paragraph is pretty much rephrased in every single thing that I could find about this supposed ghost. I could not find any Reddit stories about the ghost. I could not find any books about the ghost. That's literally it. That same paragraph in like 5 different ways that it's been rephrased across other websites. That's it.
But you cannot find who it is. Like
I cannot. And I went down a rabbit hole on Reddit to try and find something, and all I found about that Air Force base on Reddit was A, people talking about what it's like on that Air Force base because they were being moved there.
Yeah.
B, testing stealth technology, meaning they found like their reasoning for it was they found dead bats that couldn't echolocate some of the planes there and ran into them. And that's like their stealth technology they ran into. And I'm like, that could have been there's dust storms here, guys. Really big dust storms. And honestly, bats, they could have just been distracted trying to catch a bug and ran into the side of a plane, not realizing that it was there when they were doing their whole echolocation bit, you know? Tons of things could happen for that. And supposedly, people break into the boneyard to steal things, so there could be pieces missing from a lot of these historical aerospace engineering planes and shit. And there's also theories that there are nukes under the base, which we already discussed, that there are missiles being stored on the base. So there's a possibility that nukes are stored on the base as well. I just don't think it's anything that's active or going to be entertained for use in the future. So literally, it pissed me off so much. I was like, this would be a really interesting story to tie into my Phoenix Lights because, you know, ghosts and aliens infatuated with this space? That would be so cool. And then it's literally that one paragraph over and over again.
That's all I can find. Now you know how my research goes. I'm like, ooh, these, like, I start with a list. I start with a long list, and then I narrow down to a short list of topics, and then I start doing research, and I scrap, like, every other topic, because I'm like, well, that was 2 sentences.
Yeah, it's literally like a 2-paragraph article, and you're like, well, that's not going to help me.
Yeah. And you find the same thing, and it's like, oh, supposedly this, and like, I get, like, talking about ghost stories, like, whether or not you believe in ghosts, like, none of it might be a real thing. But it's like the amount of it where it's like the same, like, 2-sentence blurb, allegedly this happens, and you just find that about every site, and you're like, I get it. Is there anyone who, like, has a picture of it, or like,
right?
An audio
like, can I get a picture?
Any
Can I get, like,
insight?
a real person's story that I can read somewhere, you know?
Yes.
Just like, no, just the same paragraph over and over. I'm like,
No.
cool. I really hate that that's the one that I focused in on, but I started, so I couldn't stop.
Yep. And then you're like, fuck it, I'm seeing it through, and like, they're gonna deal with this tiny sliver of a ghost hunt.
Yep. So honestly, probably a perfect month for me to pad with that PSA. So
Yeah. No, it was, the ghost was like, no, I shouldn't make myself too known. Joe has something important to tell us.
Yes. I don't want to overshadow the other part. Yeah.
Well, thank you, World War II era pilot ghost.
Thanks.
If that's even what you are.
Who knows? It could be any war. There's like so many planes. It could just be a dude who was on, because I saw some, it looked like commercial planes even too, or maybe not commercial, but like bigger planes. Like, it could just be some dude who was like really into LARPing World War II and like just wearing some
exactly.
Like,
if people are breaking in there to steal shit, I guarantee you some LARPer is breaking in there just to like live their fantasy one night, you know?
Just to like sit in the cockpit of the plane and be like, oh, I'm going down.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah.
So we've got ghost hunting tech. We've got the theories behind fucking cults and that sort of mindset of being a follower to people that murder and shit. Navajo Nation's being fucked over, unfortunately.
Yet again.
Surprise, surprise. Yeah.
And I can't do it that way. Here, for Davis Monthan Air Force Base Ghost. Okay.
Ghost question mark? Yeah.
Question mark?
That's the real trick, is you just end every search with like, such and such haunted? Ghosts? Yeah. Nice.
I love it.
Well, I love it. I think this was August was a wild month. I am so glad, I think that's a good wrap. And then we are on to September. We have on Patreon as our little after chat where we do a little bit of a teaser for like what you can expect in September. So go hop on over there if you want like a little sneak peek. You can also get cool access to like our Discord, and at certain tiers you can get early access to episodes. And then at all tiers, you can get bonus content. So any kind of our bonus episodes, any outtakes, any blooper reels, things like that. So if you want to see more from us, you can always go there. If not, I hope you guys enjoyed our second monthly mixer. Don't forget to like us, subscribe, maybe share with your friends, and drop any info in the comment if you've ever visited the Boneyard, or if you have ghost hunting tools you particularly hate, or crazy, if you ever were in a cult, like, let us know.
I would love to hear those stories.
Any of that information.
I know.
I'm
all down.
All right. Well, that's it. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.